Hey, spiritual extremist, Dr. Lloyd-Moffett. We're talking about that deep love that is cultivated in stage 2 of the Sufi Tariqa. And the example they use is really drunken love. And if you haven't had this experience, I hope you do at some point, being deeply, deeply in love with somebody and being drunk with them. It's both the most profound and deep thing you can have and silly at the same time. And we read about this just sort of punch drunk love in the Sufi texts all the time. That's how your soul should be with God, both profoundly, seriously attached and almost so familiar that you can be silly at the same time. Let's look at some of these quotes. It says, I will take 100 barrels of wine tonight. I will leave all reason and religion behind and take the maidenhead of wine for mine. For wine is the grace of the Lord of the world. Piety and moral goodness have naught to do with ecstasies. Stain your prayer rug with wine. Kind of want that to be like a life mission here. But here's the notion that wine is the metaphor that one should use to describe the soul's just complete attachment to God. Now, it's a metaphor because in Islam you're not supposed to drink. Though sometimes you start reading these, you're like, you're talking from experience here. You see this in another poem from the era. In memory of the beloved we drank a wine, we were drunk, and with it before the creation of the vine. The full moon, its glass, the wine circled by a crescent. When it is mixed, how many stars appear? If not for its bouquet, I would not have found its tavern. If not for the flash and gleam, how could imagination picture it? Time preserved nothing of it save one last breast concealed like a secret in the breast of a wise man. And at times, they seem to apologize for their drunkenness as a metaphor, but drunk love is better than piety. Listen to this one. If my words seem to smell of drunkenness, pardon me, for they flow of themselves. I drain a cup in every subtle meaning, and by every voice in the universe I am filled with delight. What can I do? Every moment my heart is tugging me to the tavern. How can I remain here with pious hermits? Okay, we could go on and on with Sufi poetry about wine, and in my Religion and Wine book called The Spirit of Wine, we actually do look at this as a metaphor. But the idea is love of God should be that sort of all-encompassing, profound silliness, that deep and deep connection. And so there's always been within Sufism a sort of anti-intellectualism. It's not about external obedience. It's not about philosophy. It's about love for God. And you see this play out in some of the texts. We will hang an intellect like a thief when love comes to rule the country. I've always wanted to put that up, by the way, in my hallway at Cal Poly because I exist in a philosophy hallway where the intellect is pretty much the only God there is. I'm not sure how they would respond to that. Sideline. But there is this passionate and vocal criticism of philosophy. Whatever you imagine in your mind, God is the opposite of it. But it's not like sort of the love you might have for what is that? Sparkling water. It's not like the love you have for a movie. It's not like the middle school love where you're like, dancing with arms outstretched. This is like, no, wait, I shouldn't say this. It's like grinding with God. No, it's not, because that's stupid. But it's like really embracing God. It is like a full-on embrace. It says, we don't want to know about the flame. We want to be burned by it. It's a love where you lose yourself in the divine. And one of my favorite spiritual poems speaks to this very point. It's by a woman named Rabia. It's really interesting that so much of Sufi thought has been passed on through women. But it seems this pure, just absolute love. Oh Lord, whatever share of the world you could give to me, give it to your enemies. Whatever share of the next world you want to give to me, give it to your friends. You are enough for me. Oh God, my whole concern and desire in this world is that I should always remember you above all things in this world. And then next I should meet with you alone. That is why I pray your will be done. O Lord, if I worship you, have fear of hell, burn me in hell. If I worship you of hope from hope of paradise, bar me from its gate. But I worship you for yourself alone, grant me the beauty of your face. And true love then is perfect passivity, not desiring to do your own will. There was once a Sufi story where a disciple fell into the Tigris River, and the other disciple says, "Do you want to be saved?" Sufi said, "No." He said, "Then do you want to die?" He said, "No." And they said, "What do you want?" He goes, "All I want is to be done with my willing." That is pure love. And you see this play out so well in the poetry of Rumi, who was this beautiful Sufi saint, and wrote so much about this love. When love is with me, I am one with love. Delighting when I say your name, I roam a dazzled drunkard in our dimension where every event is secret laughter. I love that analogy because, sometimes when you're with really, really close friends and you can just look at each other and giggle, that's what the Sufis say you should be with God. That closeness and intimacy, that depth, that's what Rumi's talking about. The image in the mirror seems different, but sublime days arrive when you know viewer, image, and mirror are one, the same. Silent, calm, eternal, shimmering, the law of wonder rules my life at last. I burn each second of my life to love. Each second of my life burns out in love. And each leaping second, love lives afresh. And because of this sort of concentration on love, Sufis have rewritten the Shahada, because it used to say, this is the foundational statement of faith for Islam. It used to say there's no God but God, Muhammad is his messenger. But the Sufi version of it is there's no God but love, and I am his messenger. So the second stage of Sufi is not obedience, it's not knowledge, it's unrelenting love. So much so that you begin to lose yourself in it. Listen to another poem by Rumi. One night a man was crying, Allah, Allah. His lips grew sweet with praising until a cynic said, "So, I've heard you calling, but have you ever gotten a response?" The man had no answer. He quit praying and fell into confused sleep. He dreamt he saw Kidder, the guide of souls, in the thick green foliage. He said, "Why did you stop praising?" "Because I never heard anything back." This longing you express is the return message. The grief you cry out from draws you towards union. Your pure sadness that wants help is a secret cup. Listen to the moan of a dog for its master. That whining is the connection. There are love dogs no one knows the name of. Give your life to be one of them. Now, I love that phrase. There are love dogs in the world that no one knows their name. And if you've had a dog that just absolutely loves you, it's the perfect analogy. And I remember when I got my first, my dog, Atticus. We got him, of course, from the pound, and we brought him home, and we didn't know what kind of dog. We knew it was maybe hound dog or something. But I remember the first time we left him, after rescuing him, and we closed the door to where we were living, and he just sat on the other side of the door and started howling. Just started going ho ho ho, and all he wanted was to be with us. And that's what Rumi is trying to say. That's sort of just the only thing that consumes your mind is wanting to be with God. That's what the soul should find in love. And in fact, there's a restaurant where I live part of the time in the summer, a little island called Lopez Island up in Washington. And the restaurant was called The Love Dog, after this quote from Rumi. Because this is the notion. We are to be like that dog that longs just to be by the side of his master, not to get anything, but out of pure love and devotion. That's that second phase. That is developing a pure and totally heartfelt love.